Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, call hello Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders, great millstone, who continue to do this work through the Holy Spirit, give us His truth. This is Naaman with the DC Camp, and came across this article, and as the title implies, it is a masterpiece. What's going on here is, imagine, if you will, you were a slave back in the day, which, we all know that we come back between, up until the third and fourth generations. So, yeah, we were back then, but bear with me here. So, in this case, this gentleman right here, during the Civil War, he was liberated from where he was on the plantation, taken up north. And, well, he happened to see an article that his former slave master had posted, requesting or asking if he would come back to work the plantation because it had fell into disarray. Just imagine, if you will, what you would say to such a proud individual. And that's what this is going into, and the reason I'm smiling. Hopefully I can get through this without just, trying to maintain a straight face here. But anyway, this is from Upworthy. Formerly enslaved man's response to his master wanting him back is a literary masterpiece. All right, it says in 18, this is the Jake right here. All right, and it says this is originally appeared on November the 3rd of 2017. It says, in 1825, at the approximate age of 8, Jordan Anderson, whose picture this is here, sometimes spelled Jordan, was sold into slavery and would live as a servant of the Anderson family for 39 years. In 1864, the Union Army camped out on the Anderson plantation, and he and his wife Amanda were liberated. The couple eventually made it safely to Dayton, Ohio, where in July 1865, Jordan received a letter from his former owner, Colonel P.H. Anderson. The letter kindly asked Jordan to return to work on the plantation because it had fallen into disarray during the war. And this attitude persists amongst these devils to this day. This is something that's common amongst them. They expect you to drop any and everything that you're doing and spend all your energy as it concerns them. I mean, the nerve of these people. But that's what's going to be, why it's going to be all the more enjoyable for us when these devils really go down. All right, it says on August 7th, 1865, Jordan dictated his response through his new boss, Valentine Winters, and it was published in the Cincinnati Commercial. The letter, entitled Letter from a Freedman to His Old Master, was not only hilarious, but it showed compassion, defiance, and dignity. That year, the letter would be published or republished in the New York Daily Tribune and Lydia Marie Child's The Freedman's Book. All right. They're also quick to try to dictate how you should respond in such situations, even though they wouldn't if you've, been around them long enough. All right. It says the letter mentions a Miss Mary, Colonel Anderson's wife, Martha, Colonel Anderson's daughter, Henry, most likely Colonel Anderson's son, and George Carter, a local carpenter. Dayton, Ohio, August 7th, 1865, to my old master, Colonel P.H. Anderson, Big Spring, Tennessee. Sir, I got your letter and was glad to find that you had not forgotten Jordan and that you wanted me to come back and live with you, again promising to do better for me than anybody else can. I have often felt uneasy about you. I thought the Yankee would have hung you long before this. for harboring Rebs they found at your house. I suppose they never heard about your going to Colonel Martin's to kill the Union soldier that was left by his company in their stable. Although you shot at me twice before I left you, I did not want to hear of your being hurt, and I'm glad you're still living. It would do me good to go back to the dear old home again and see Miss Mary and Miss Martha and Alan, Esther, Green, and Lee. Give my love to them all, and tell them I hope we will meet in a better world, if not in this. I would have gone back to see you all when I was working in the Nashville hospital, but one of the neighbors told me that Henry, that's the colonel's son, intended to shoot me if he ever got a chance. I want to know particularly what the good chance is you propose to give me. I am doing tolerably well here. I get $25 a month with victuals and clothing, have a comfortable home for Mandy, the folks call her Mrs. Anderson, and the children, Millie, Jane, and Grundy, go to school and are learning well. The teacher says Grundy has a head for a preacher. They go to Sunday school, and Mandy and me attend church regularly. We are kindly treated. Sometimes we overhear others saying them colored people were slaves down in Tennessee. The children feel hurt when they hear such remarks, but I tell them it was no disgrace in Tennessee to belong to Colonel Anderson. Many darkies would have been proud, as I used to be, to call you master. Now, if you will write and say what wages you will give me, I will be better able to decide whether it would be to my advantage to move back again. As to my freedom, which you say I can have, there is nothing to be gained on that score, as I got my free papers in 1864 from the Provost Marshal General of the Department of Nashville. Mandy says she would be afraid to go back without some proof that you were disposed to treat us justly and kindly, and we have concluded to test your sincerity by asking you to send us our wages for the time we served you. This will make us forget and forgive old scores and rely on your justice and friendship in the future. I served you faithfully for 32 years, and Mandy 20 years. At $25 a month for me and $2 a week for Mandy, our earnings would amount to $11,680. Add to this the interest for the time our wages have been kept back, and deduct what you paid for our clothing, and 3 doctor's visits for me, and pulling a tooth for Mandy, and the balance will show that what we are in justice entitled to. Please send the money by Adams Express in care of V. Winters, Esquire, Dayton, Ohio. If you fail to pay us for faithful labors in the past, we can have little faith in your promises in the future. We trust the good Maker has opened your eyes to the wrongs which you and your fathers have done to me and my fathers, in making us toil for you for generations without recompense. Here I draw my wages every Saturday night, but in Tennessee there was never any payday for the Negroes any more than for the horses and cows. Surely there will be a day of reckoning for those who defraud the labor of his hire. In answering this letter, please state if there would be any safety for my Millie and Jane, who are now grown up and both good-looking girls. You know how it was with poor Matilda and Catherine. I would rather stay here and starve and die, if it come to that, than have my girls brought to shame by the violence and wickedness of their young masters. You will also please state if there has been any schools open for the colored children in your neighborhood. The great desire of my life now is to give my children an education and have them form virtuous habits. Say howdy to George Carter and thank him for taking the pistol from you when you were shooting at me. From your old servant, Jordan Anderson. Oh, Jake, boy. See, and for those of you, some of these how am I going to word this? If you get an opportunity to ever hear, I know there was one on the internet of a former slave, Fountain Hughes. I think he died in the 40s or early 50s. He was at least 100. I think he was like 102 or something like that. But when you hear them, and yes, these were actual, well, this one in particular was an actual slave. You can just hear, even though what he went through, that wisdom, that still able to retain his dignity, and it came through in that recording, and it comes through here in this. All right, so these animals, these Edomites, these so-called white people, despite all they've done to us, as some have said and written, it's got to shake you that, hey, we're still here after all this. And I'm gonna save this because this is this is gold, literary gold. All right. But yeah, when he said that last part there about defrauding, I immediately thought of, as a lot of you did, when you go to the book of James, as soon as this loads up. So let's go to, because this is damn sure what they did. We can just stay in James here. Let's go to James 5. It says, let's go straight to 4. Go straight to 4. It says, behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. I hope you caught that at the end there. It says, ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. Ye have nursed your hearts as in a day of slaughter, at our expense. And yet, especially this time of the year, we just got through with our Passover, but the great pretenders, the small hats, the big nosed people, the fake Jews are getting ready to have theirs. Here it is. They put, they've masqueraded as someone that they're not for centuries now. All right. At least going on 2 here. Now, of course, when you consider the Northeast, we're talking with the ones from the Iberian Peninsula. You're talking about 1600s, New Amsterdam and all that, you know, Dutch East, Dutch West, Indian Company. Those people over here then, all right. But the so-called Ashkenazi, now you're getting into the mid to late 1800s, you know, those nasty motherfuckers, and that originated where you're having all this trouble now in Ukraine, that area there, Kiev, and you know, Georgia, that area there. Those nasty motherfuckers, and yes, they are highly racist. You know, well, then they migrated west into your, you know, western parts of Europe. Yeah, these are those nasty motherfuckers. So they hate us anyway. All right, but there is a schism anyway between Ashkenaz and the Jews of the Iberian Peninsula. All right, for the longest time, the ones of the Iberian Peninsula didn't want to be associated with the Ashkenazi. They couldn't worship in their temples or anything. All right, so there's that schism there. We're just not able to exploit it. All right. But in any case, like I said, this is a masterpiece. These, and hey, like I said, we'll stay in James. Let's go. Oops, why did I do that? Let's go to James 2. This is all the more reason why this is going to happen to these devils. This is James chapter 2, verse 13. For he shall have judgment without mercy, that have shewed no mercy, and mercy rejoices against judgment. You know damn well that man had no good intentions toward this Jake here. All right. And it was, I just got to keep reading this. You know, I got to keep it with me in order to read this, because you got to laugh. All right. But, you know, the wit behind it. And you can just imagine what this devil, when he read this, what he must have thought. All right. I hope he had a stroke and died, motherfucker. But hey, as you know, once again, Formerly enslaved man's response to his master wanting him back is a literary masterpiece. This devil has a whole lot, all of them, they have a whole lot to answer for. All right, but it tells you in, now that I'm thinking about it, in Revelation 16, but not 16, but 6 and 9, but at the 9, let's go to the end here. And it tells you, it said, after all these plagues and everything, these nukes and everything that fall and what's about to come upon this devil, even that, after all this, all right, he's going to remain the same. All right, that's why these devils, per Obadiah 18th verse, they got to be eliminated. And the irony of all that is, they pretended, like I said, this time of the year, there, they hear stories about, like this morning, for instance, about the Hollow Hoax. I just turned the channel. I'm tired of hearing that shit. The what is that? The IFC, International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Again, extorting, cheating people out of money. Here it is, these people pretending to be destitute, but you own all the banks, you run the whole fucking world, and yet people are still stupid enough to send money to these clowns. All right, anyway, it's Revelation chapter 9 verse 20. It says, and the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver, which this is the so-called white man's god, gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. And you got to wonder at this point, Isaiah 47 is not working for them anymore. All right. And that, since I said it, I didn't mean to take this much time, but, all their sorceries and everything aren't working for them anymore. All right. Book of Obadiah, again, we go to, I think, was it talking about the wise men of Teman? I forget what verse, 6, 7, or 8. But these things aren't working for them anymore. It says, you can read it from the top, but I'm going to go straight to the point. It says 10, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else besides me, because there's none more proud than the so-called white man. It says, therefore, verse 11, therefore evil shall come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. 12, stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied, verse 13, thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame, there shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to set before it. So there you go. Once again, this has been this article that was posted. It says, formerly enslaved man's response to his master wanting him back is a literary masterpiece. Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, so with that, salutations to all you Akim out there on the highways and byways, across the four corners, pushing this truth, all honesty and sincerity. Hey, so with that, hey, shalom.